Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to control life, the more it seems to slip through your fingers? The more desperately you chase success, the more restless and anxious you become. Modern society teaches us that everything must be forced, pushed, and conquered through endless effort. But this constant pressure often leaves people exhausted, frustrated, and disconnected from their own inner strength. The ancient Stoic philosophers saw life very differently. They believed that true power does not come from frantic struggle, but from calm control over your own mind. When you stop clinging to outcomes, when you stop fighting every obstacle as if it were an enemy, something surprising begins to happen. Your thinking becomes clearer, your actions become wiser, and opportunities that once seemed invisible begin to appear. Instead of exhausting yourself trying to force life forward, you learn to move with it, steady, focused, and deeply grounded within yourself. One of the greatest sources of suffering in human life is not desire itself, but attachment to the outcome of that desire. Wanting something is natural. Wanting to grow, to succeed, to build a meaningful life is part of what drives us forward. But there is a critical difference between wanting something and needing it in order to feel complete. The moment a desire turns into a necessity for your happiness, it quietly begins to control you. Your peace becomes conditional. Your confidence becomes fragile. Your sense of worth becomes tied to whether life gives you what you hoped for or not. This is where desperation begins to grow. When people become attached to a specific result, their thoughts start to revolve around fear. Fear of losing the opportunity. Fear of being left behind. Fear that they are not good enough. Fear that time is running out. And once fear enters the mind, it distorts judgment. Decisions are no longer made from clarity, but from anxiety. People start forcing things that should unfold naturally. They push relationships that are not ready. They chase opportunities that do not align with their values. And they exhaust themselves trying to bend reality to match their expectations. The Stoic philosophers understood this trap deeply. Epictetus taught that the secret to freedom is not found in having everything you want, but in reducing the number of things you believe you must have. This idea does not mean abandoning ambition or becoming passive in life. It means learning how to hold your desires with a lighter grip. When you desire something but remain emotionally stable, whether it arrives or not, you preserve your inner balance. You are still motivated to act, but you are not controlled by the result. This creates a very different kind of energy. A person who acts without desperation thinks more clearly, moves more patiently, and responds to challenges with composure rather than panic. They are not constantly measuring their worth against the speed of their progress. Instead, they focus on what they can control in the present moment: their effort, their discipline, their character, and the quality of their decisions. From the Stoic perspective, true strength comes from separating your internal state from external outcomes. You can work hard toward a goal, but your peace should never depend entirely on achieving it. When your happiness is tied to a specific result, you give that result power over your emotional life. But when your happiness comes from the integrity of your actions and the steadiness of your character, you remain stable even in uncertainty. This mindset changes the way you move through the world. Instead of chasing every opportunity with urgency and tension, you begin to approach life with calm intention. You do your part with focus and discipline, but you allow space for reality to unfold in its own timing. The paradox is that when you stop clinging so tightly to results, you often perform better. Your thinking becomes sharper because it is not clouded by anxiety. Your decisions become wiser because they are guided by reason rather than fear, and the people around you sense a quiet confidence that is far more powerful than desperation. A person who is internally stable does not appear needy, rushed, or reactive. They appear grounded. They appear composed. And that kind of presence naturally attracts trust, opportunity, and respect. The Stoics called this state inner freedom. It is the understanding that while you may prefer certain outcomes, your well-being does not depend on controlling them. You can pursue success without becoming enslaved by it. You can desire progress without losing your peace if progress is slow. You can aim high without collapsing emotionally when circumstances change. When you begin to live this way, something inside you relaxes. The constant pressure to force life into a specific shape begins to fade. You still move forward with discipline and purpose, but you do so from a place of stability rather than desperation. And that quiet shift is powerful, because a mind that is not desperate can see more clearly, choose more wisely, and endure far longer than a mind driven by fear. Over time, this calm strength becomes one of the most valuable qualities you can develop, not because it guarantees you will get everything you want, but because it ensures that no matter what happens, you remain steady, capable, and free inside. Most people spend a large part of their lives mentally somewhere else. Their bodies are present in the current moment, but their minds are constantly wandering into the past or racing ahead into the future. They replay conversations that already happened, regret mistakes that cannot be undone, worry about possibilities that may never occur, and imagine outcomes that are far beyond their control. This habit feels normal because so many people live this way, but it quietly drains an enormous amount of mental energy. The Stoic philosophers understood that the only place where real power exists is the present moment. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself repeatedly to confine his attention to what is in front of him right now, because the past cannot be changed and the future has not yet arrived. When your mind is trapped in regret or anxiety, you lose the ability to see clearly what is happening around you. Opportunities pass unnoticed. Small signals are ignored, and decisions become clouded by emotional noise. A person who is constantly thinking about what might happen tomorrow cannot fully engage with the possibilities of today. This is why presence is not just a peaceful state of mind. It is a practical advantage in life. When you are fully present, your awareness becomes sharper. You notice details that others overlook. You hear meaning behind words that people casually speak. You recognize patterns, connections, and openings that a distracted mind would miss completely. Many people believe success depends only on intelligence, talent, or hard work. But attention is just as important. The ability to direct your full awareness toward the moment you are living in creates a powerful form of clarity. In that clarity, your decisions become more precise and your actions become more effective. The Stoics believed that discipline of attention was one of the most valuable skills a person could develop. They practiced reminding themselves that the present moment is the only moment where action is possible. You cannot act in yesterday, and you cannot act in tomorrow. Every meaningful choice happens here. When you understand this deeply, the way you experience time begins to change. Instead of constantly rushing toward the future, you begin to treat the present as the foundation of everything you want to build. The future is not created through worry or imagination. It is created through the quality of your actions right now. When your attention is scattered, your actions become careless. But when your attention is grounded, even simple actions become deliberate and powerful. Consider how different it feels to speak with someone who is completely present with you. They listen without distraction. They respond thoughtfully. and they make you feel understood. Their calm focus creates a sense of trust and connection that is difficult to explain but easy to recognize. That same presence can shape every area of life. In work, it improves the quality of your thinking. In relationships, it deepens understanding. In personal growth, it allows you to observe your thoughts and emotions without immediately reacting to them. Presence creates a small but crucial space between stimulus and response. In that space, reason can guide your choices instead of impulse. The Stoics valued this space because it is where freedom exists. If you automatically react to every worry, frustration, or fear that appears in your mind, then your behavior is being controlled by circumstances. But if you can pause, observe the situation, and respond thoughtfully, you reclaim control over your own actions. Developing this level of awareness requires practice. The mind naturally drifts, especially in a world filled with constant distraction. Technology, noise, and endless streams of information compete for your attention every moment of the day. Without conscious effort, your focus becomes fragmented. The Stoic response to this problem was simple but powerful. Bring your awareness back to the present whenever you notice it drifting. Notice your breathing. Notice the sensations in your body. Notice the environment around you. This small act of returning your attention to what is happening right now gradually strengthens your ability to remain grounded. Over time, presence becomes a habit rather than a struggle. And when that happens, the quality of your life begins to shift. Problems that once felt overwhelming become easier to navigate because you are dealing with them one moment at a time, instead of imagining every possible future outcome. Your mind becomes quieter, your judgment becomes clearer, and your actions become more intentional. The present moment is not just where life happens. It is where life can be shaped. Every skill you build, every relationship you nurture, and every decision you make begins in this single point of time. When you learn to return your attention here again and again, you reconnect with the place where your real influence exists. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but the moment you are living in right now. Every meaningful path in life contains resistance. No matter how intelligent, disciplined, or prepared a person may be, obstacles will appear sooner or later. Plans break, opportunities close, people disappoint us, and circumstances shift in ways we did not expect. Many people interpret these moments as signs that something has gone wrong or that they are moving in the wrong direction. When difficulty appears, their first reaction is frustration, discouragement, or even the belief that life is working against them. But the Stoic philosophers viewed resistance from a completely different perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the obstacle to action advances action, and what stands in the way becomes the way. This idea may sound paradoxical at first, but it reveals a powerful truth about human growth. The things that challenge us are often the very things that shape our strength, sharpen our thinking, and prepare us for responsibilities we could not handle before. Without resistance, character remains untested and potential remains undeveloped. Imagine a muscle that is never challenged by weight or strain. It would never grow stronger because growth requires pressure. The same principle applies to the human mind. Difficulties force us to adapt, to rethink our strategies, and to discover abilities we did not know we possessed. When everything moves smoothly, there is little reason to improve. Comfort rarely produces transformation. Resistance does. The Stoics believe that obstacles are not simply barriers placed in front of us. They are materials we can use to build something stronger within ourselves. A delay may teach patience, A failure may reveal weaknesses in our approach. A rejection may redirect us toward a better path. None of these experiences feel pleasant in the moment, but each of them contains information that can be used to refine our thinking and behavior. The problem is that most people spend so much energy resisting the existence of the obstacle that they never look for the lesson inside it. They argue with reality instead of working with it. They ask why this is happening to them, rather than asking what this situation can teach them. This mental resistance multiplies the difficulty of the original problem. Instead of solving the challenge, the mind becomes trapped in frustration and self-doubt. The Stoic response is much calmer and more constructive. When an obstacle appears, the first step is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean liking the situation or pretending it is easy. It simply means recognizing that the event has already happened and cannot be changed. Once you stop arguing with reality, your energy becomes available for something more useful. Instead of wasting attention on anger or regret, you can focus on the only question that matters. What can be done now? This shift in thinking transforms the obstacle from an enemy into a problem to be solved. A closed door becomes a signal to look for another path. A setback becomes feedback about what needs improvement. A challenge becomes a form of training for greater responsibility. The obstacle still exists, but its meaning changes. It becomes part of the path rather than a reason to abandon it. This mindset creates resilience because it removes the expectation that life should always be smooth. When difficulties appear, you are not shocked or discouraged. You understand that resistance is a natural part of any meaningful pursuit. Instead of collapsing under pressure, you adapt. You look for ways to move around the barrier, through it, or beyond it. Over time, this attitude builds a deep confidence that does not depend on circumstances being easy. You begin to trust that whatever appears in front of you can be faced with reason and effort. Many of the qualities people admire most, patience, courage, discipline, wisdom, are not developed in comfortable conditions. They are forged in moments where a person is forced to confront difficulty without losing composure. The Stoics believed that every challenge offers an opportunity to practice these virtues. When you encounter resistance, you are being given a chance to strengthen the very traits that allow a person to navigate life well. In this way, obstacles become tools for growth rather than signs of defeat. A person who understands this principle moves through life differently. They do not expect the road to be free of difficulty, and they do not panic when things go wrong. Instead, they meet challenges with curiosity and determination. They ask what the situation requires from them. What skill needs to be improved? What lesson can be learned? Each obstacle becomes another step in the process of becoming stronger and wiser. When you begin to see resistance this way, the path ahead no longer looks like a series of barriers blocking your progress. It begins to look like a training ground designed to shape you into someone capable of handling greater challenges and greater opportunities. Much of human suffering comes from a simple mistake that people rarely notice. They place the control of their inner state in the hands of external circumstances. When things go well, they feel confident and optimistic. When things go wrong, their peace collapses. Their mood rises and falls with money, with praise, with approval, with the behavior of other people, and with events they cannot control. In this way, many people unknowingly turn themselves into prisoners of the outside world. Their happiness becomes dependent on conditions that are constantly changing. The Stoic philosophers believed that true strength begins when a person understands the difference between what is within their control and what is not. This distinction sits at the heart of Stoic philosophy. According to Epictetus, Some things depend on us, and some things do not. Our judgments, our choices, our actions, and our attitudes belong to us. But reputation, wealth, the opinions of others, and the outcomes of many events do not fully belong to us. When people confuse these two categories, they begin chasing control over things that were never theirs to command. They become frustrated when reality refuses to obey their expectations. But when a person clearly understands this boundary, their life becomes far more stable. Instead of exhausting themselves, trying to manage everything around them, they focus their energy on the part of life they truly govern, their own mind and character. This shift creates what can be called inner authority. Inner authority means that your sense of worth, your emotional stability, and your direction in life come from within rather than from the approval of others or the unpredictability of circumstances. A person with inner authority does not allow their peace to be easily stolen by criticism, delay, or temporary failure. They recognize that external events may influence their situation, but they do not have the power to define who they are. This mindset requires discipline because the world constantly encourages the opposite behavior. Social comparison, public opinion, and the endless pursuit of recognition push people to measure their value according to external signals. The more attention people give to those signals, the more fragile their confidence becomes. One negative comment can ruin their day. One setback can make them question their entire path. But the Stoics trained themselves to build their identity on something far more stable. They based their sense of self on the quality of their actions and the strength of their character. When your self-respect comes from living according to reason and integrity, it cannot easily be taken away by outside events. You may experience disappointment, but it does not destroy your foundation. You may face criticism, but it does not erase your sense of direction. This form of independence creates emotional resilience. Instead of reacting automatically to every situation, you learn to pause and evaluate what is happening. A rude comment from someone else becomes information rather than an attack on your identity. A financial loss becomes a practical challenge rather than a personal failure. Because your value is not tied to the event itself, you can respond more calmly and intelligently. This calm response is a sign of real power. It shows that your inner state is not controlled by whatever happens around you. Developing this kind of stability does not mean ignoring emotions or pretending that difficulties do not affect you. The Stoics never believed that humans should become emotionless. Instead, they believed emotions should be guided by reason rather than allowed to dominate it. When anger, fear, or disappointment appears, the goal is not to suppress the feeling, but to observe it carefully and choose how to respond. This small moment of awareness creates freedom. Without it, emotions push people into impulsive reactions they later regret. With it, emotions become signals that can be understood and directed wisely. Over time, this practice strengthens the sense that your mind belongs to you. The world may change, circumstances may shift, and people may behave unpredictably. But your ability to choose your response remains intact. This realization is deeply empowering because it returns control to the place where it truly exists. The Stoics believed that a person who masters their inner life becomes difficult to defeat. They may encounter loss, difficulty, or uncertainty, but their core remains steady. Their decisions come from reflection rather than pressure. Their confidence comes from character rather than applause. And their peace is not constantly shaken by events beyond their influence. When you begin to build this inner authority, life becomes less chaotic. External events still happen, but they no longer dictate the direction of your mind. Instead of chasing control over everything around you, you strengthen the one place where real control exists: your own thoughts, choices, and actions. From that stable center, you can face the world with clarity, resilience, and quiet strength. Modern culture often praises constant activity. People are taught that if they want to succeed, they must always be moving, always pushing, always doing something. Productivity becomes a measure of worth, and stillness begins to feel uncomfortable. Many individuals fill every hour with tasks because they believe progress requires continuous motion. Yet this belief hides a quiet danger. Not all action is meaningful action, and not all movement leads forward. In many cases, people are not acting from clarity, but from anxiety. They keep themselves busy because slowing down forces them to confront uncertainty. The Stoic philosophers understood that wisdom includes the ability to recognize the difference between necessary action and unnecessary struggle. A person who acts without reflection often wastes enormous energy trying to force situations that are not ready to move. Instead of improving outcomes, this impatience creates more problems. Decisions made in haste can damage relationships, exhaust resources, and close opportunities that patience might have revealed. True strength is not shown through constant activity, but through thoughtful timing. Knowing when to act and when to step back requires discipline of the mind. It requires the ability to observe circumstances calmly and to resist the impulse to interfere with every unfolding situation. The Stoics practiced this form of restraint because they believed that reality follows its own rhythm. Some developments cannot be rushed, no matter how strong the desire for progress may be. Just as a seed requires time in the soil before it can grow into a tree, many efforts require a period of quiet development before results become visible. When people attempt to accelerate every process, they often damage the very outcome they are trying to create. Consider how a skilled strategist approaches a complex challenge. They do not move immediately at the first sign of opportunity. Instead, they observe, gather information, and understand the environment before taking action. This patience allows them to act with precision when the right moment appears. In contrast, someone who reacts impulsively may feel productive, but often ends up creating more work to repair earlier mistakes. The Stoics valued this strategic patience because it protects a person from acting under the influence of fear or pressure. When the mind is calm, it becomes easier to recognize the difference between a genuine opportunity and a distraction. A calm mind also has the ability to wait without feeling powerless. Many people fear waiting because they believe it means losing control of their situation. But in reality, waiting with awareness is often a form of strength. It allows time for new information to appear, for emotions to settle, and for circumstances to evolve in ways that may reveal better options. Strategic restraint does not mean passivity. It does not mean avoiding responsibility or refusing to act when action is required. The Stoics were not passive observers of life. They believed in discipline, responsibility, and purposeful effort. What they rejected was unnecessary struggle driven by impatience. When the moment for action arrives, the Stoic response is decisive and focused. But when the situation calls for observation rather than intervention, they allow events to unfold without forcing them. This balanced approach prevents exhaustion and improves the quality of decisions. Acting too early can be as harmful as acting too late. Wisdom lies in recognizing the right moment for each response. Developing this awareness requires practice because the human mind naturally seeks control. When we face uncertainty, the instinctive reaction is to do something immediately. even if that action is not helpful. Learning to pause interrupts this pattern. By taking a moment to observe the situation clearly, you create space for reason to guide your next step. In that space, you can ask simple but powerful questions. Is action necessary right now? Or would patience reveal more information? Is this effort moving me closer to my purpose? Or am I reacting to pressure? These questions slow the mind just enough to prevent unnecessary struggle. Over time, this habit builds a quiet confidence in your ability to navigate complex situations. You no longer feel the need to control every moment because you trust your capacity to act effectively when the right time arrives. Life becomes less about constant movement and more about deliberate movement. Each action carries intention rather than urgency. Each pause carries awareness rather than doubt. When you learn to balance action with restraint, your energy is used more wisely. Effort becomes focused instead of scattered, and patience becomes an ally rather than a burden. This combination of calm, observation, and timely action is one of the most powerful forms of wisdom a person can develop. Many people move through life with a quiet feeling that something is missing. No matter how much they achieve or accumulate, their attention remains fixed on what they do not yet have. This constant focus on lack slowly shapes the way they see the world. Instead of recognizing the value already present in their lives, they measure themselves against imagined futures and the successes of others. The result is a persistent sense of insufficiency. The Stoic philosophers warned that this mindset can quietly steal peace from a person's life. Seneca once wrote that it is not the person who has little who is poor, but the person who always desires more. This statement does not condemn ambition or the desire for improvement. The Stoics believed in personal growth and responsible effort. What they questioned was the endless craving that prevents a person from recognizing when enough already exists. When the mind becomes trapped in constant comparison and endless desire, it becomes impossible to feel satisfied. Even achievements that once seemed meaningful quickly lose their impact because the mind immediately shifts its focus toward the next unmet expectation. This pattern creates a cycle where happiness is always postponed into the future. The Stoics proposed a different approach. They encouraged the deliberate practice of gratitude as a way to restore balance in the mind. Gratitude does not require ignoring difficulties or pretending that life is perfect. Instead, it invites a person to notice the value that already exists alongside the challenges. When you begin to acknowledge the simple supports that sustain your life, your perspective begins to shift. The ability to breathe freely, the presence of people who care about you, the opportunity to learn and grow, and the countless ordinary moments that make up daily life all become visible again. These elements may seem small when taken for granted, but they form the foundation of everything else you hope to achieve. When gratitude becomes a regular habit, it changes the emotional atmosphere of your thinking. Instead of approaching life from a position of scarcity, you begin to recognize a sense of quiet abundance. This shift has powerful effects on the way you act and interact with others. A person who feels grateful is less driven by desperation and more guided by appreciation. Their actions become expressions of purpose rather than attempts to fill an inner void. This mindset also strengthens resilience because gratitude reminds you that even in difficult moments, there are still aspects of life worth valuing. Alongside gratitude, the Stoics emphasize the importance of living with authenticity. Many people spend a large part of their lives adjusting their behavior to match what they believe others expect from them. They pursue goals that appear impressive but do not truly resonate with their values. They hide their honest thoughts in order to avoid criticism or rejection. Over time, this constant adjustment creates a quiet tension inside the mind. When your actions do not align with your deeper principles, the result is a sense of internal conflict that cannot easily be resolved through external success. Authentic living offers a way out of this tension. To live authentically means to allow your decisions and behavior to reflect your genuine understanding of what matters. It means choosing paths that align with your values rather than simply following what seems popular or socially rewarded. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself not to spend time worrying about what others were doing, but to focus on acting in accordance with his own principles. This perspective frees a person from the exhausting effort of trying to satisfy every external expectation. When you act with authenticity, your energy becomes more focused because it is directed toward goals that genuinely matter to you. Gratitude and authenticity work together to create a powerful inner foundation. Gratitude teaches the mind to recognize the richness already present in life. Authenticity ensures that the direction of your effort reflects your true values rather than borrowed ambitions. When these two qualities grow stronger, the feeling of insufficiency gradually weakens. You no longer feel compelled to chase every opportunity simply to prove your worth. Instead, you move forward with a clearer understanding of what is meaningful to you. This clarity brings a sense of calm confidence. You appreciate what is already present while continuing to develop what lies ahead. The mind becomes less distracted by comparison and more attentive to the quiet satisfaction that comes from living honestly and gratefully. Over time, this combination nurtures a deep sense of enoughness, not a passive acceptance of stagnation, but a steady awareness that your value does not depend on endless accumulation. From that place of inner fullness, growth becomes a choice, guided by purpose, rather than a reaction driven by lack. One of the most difficult lessons for many people to accept is that life does not unfold according to our personal schedule. We often believe that if we work hard enough, plan carefully enough, and push forward with enough determination, the results we want should appear exactly when we expect them to. When reality does not follow this timeline, frustration begins to grow. People start to question their abilities, doubt their path, or assume that something has gone wrong. Yet the Stoic philosophers believed that much of this frustration comes from misunderstanding how life actually unfolds. The world moves according to patterns and circumstances far larger than any single individual. Events intersect, opportunities develop, and conditions mature over time in ways that are not always visible from our limited perspective. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to accept the events that fate placed before him and to work with them rather than against them. This attitude does not mean surrendering responsibility or abandoning effort. It means recognizing that while we control our intentions and actions, we do not control the timing of every result. Many of the most meaningful developments in life require preparation that cannot be rushed. Skills must be developed. Relationships must grow through shared experience. And opportunities often appear only when circumstances align in a particular way. Impatience can cause a person to overlook this natural rhythm. When someone becomes too focused on forcing outcomes quickly, they may ignore valuable lessons that appear during the waiting period. They may abandon a meaningful path simply because results are slower than expected. The Stoic mindset encourages a different response. Instead of treating delay as a sign of failure, it treats delay as part of the process. Time allows the mind to strengthen, judgment to mature, and character to deepen. In many cases, the person who eventually receives an opportunity must first grow into someone capable of carrying the responsibility that comes with it. Without that preparation, success can arrive too early and collapse under its own weight. Trusting the rhythm of life requires patience, but it also requires active engagement with the present. It is not passive waiting. The Stoics believed that while the timing of outcomes may not belong entirely to us, the quality of our preparation always does. Every day offers the chance to refine our thinking, strengthen our discipline, and act in ways that align with our values. When you focus on becoming the kind of person capable of handling opportunity well, you transform waiting into growth. Instead of measuring progress only through visible achievements, you begin to recognize progress within yourself. Your judgment becomes calmer, your reactions become more measured, and your confidence becomes less dependent on external approval. This internal development quietly prepares you for moments that cannot yet be predicted. When the right circumstances appear, the person who has spent time strengthening their character and abilities is ready to respond effectively. Those who rush through life often miss these moments because they are too focused on forcing outcomes that are not yet possible. Trusting the rhythm of life also brings a sense of peace that many people struggle to find. When you believe that everything must happen immediately, every delay feels like a threat to your future. But when you accept that life unfolds through stages, the pressure to control every moment begins to fade. You still pursue your goals with dedication, but you do so with a steadier mind. You understand that some things require time to mature, just as seasons require time to change. This perspective allows you to appreciate the present stage of your journey rather than constantly trying to escape it. Each stage carries its own lessons and opportunities for growth. When you approach life this way, patience becomes a form of wisdom rather than a sign of weakness. You remain committed to your efforts while allowing events to unfold in their natural order. This balance between effort and trust creates a powerful stability within the mind. You act with discipline where action is possible, and you accept with calmness where control is limited. Over time, this attitude transforms the way you experience uncertainty. Instead of seeing it as a threat, you begin to see it as space where possibilities can emerge. Life is no longer something you must force into shape at every moment. It becomes a path that you walk with awareness, preparation, and quiet confidence. By trusting the rhythm of life while continuing to strengthen your character, you become ready to receive whatever opportunities the future brings.